What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today. And in honor of your Philadelphia Phillies, we have a 2-for-1 special here. Maker's Mark, BRT 01, BRT 02. We're going to see where both of these fall on the ranking sheets today. And let's do it with a Red October. Cheers, y'all. That's right. We have Maker's Mark, BRT 01 and 02. This is part of the wood finishing series. And I got to tell you, if there's one bottle of bourbon that I absolutely hate opening, it is Maker's Mark. But we're going to pour these up. We're going to see where they both fall on the ranking sheet today. And something interesting I also want to do is I'm going to pour a little half and half here over on the side. And we're going to talk about that one at the end and see maybe these are better mixed together. Just a little 02, little 01. Might have been more 01, but we'll figure it out. So we have our 01 in our Drink Pro glass, our 02 in our Rabbit Hole glass. But everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. One of these is going to be good. First of all, how do we look? I'm pulling off my Brandon Marsh here. Do I have it? Do I have it going? Got the goatee, right? Haven't shaved in months. This is the best we can do, all right? We're trying our best. But let's get into these two glasses here, right? Maker's Mark, so we know it's about 6 to 7 years old. They pride themselves on the fact that they don't tell the whiskey when it's done. The whiskey tells them when it's done. And then it goes into this staves project. Now, they're different staves. I believe the 01 is the American, yes, 10 virgin toasted American oak staves, while the 02 is 10 virgin toasted French oak staves. So we got America versus France. Now, as you know, we've dealt with Penelope's French Oak Staves project before, so maybe I'll try this 02 versus my favorite of the Penelope French Oak Architect project. But for right now, let's get into glass number 2 and try out this 02. So you know the rules: price, taste, drinkability. We're going to start with drinkability on both of these glasses, both coming in at 109.4 proof, so that should give us a very easy indication of which one drinks a little bit easier than the other. Let's take another sip of number 1 and find out. So I will say this, the first time I opened this up and tried a sip of it, it sipped a little bit hot. It definitely had a little bit of that Kentucky hug going for me. But I will say, now that this is opened up for a couple of nights, it seems a little bit easier to drink. Now, this is 110 proof. Normally when it drinks right at the proof, I'll give it about an 8. I do think this sips under the proof just a little bit. So for drinkability on BRT 01, let's give it like an 8.27. Not too bad, but at the same time, not the best. I was going to do this blind, but then I thought, what if I run out of whiskey in one of these glasses and then I don't have enough to finish the video? So we're not doing it blind here tonight, but we will eventually put these blind up against each other just to see if we can figure out which one we like better, strictly off taste. But as for right now, drinkability on BRT 02. Let's try it out. I will say this seems to drink just a little bit hotter. There are some things out there with higher proofs that drink at or around this proof right here. And there's also some things out there that don't drink nearly as easy as this does with a lower proof. So I will say, let's stick with our guns on this. This sips about 110 proof. It is about 110 proof. And normally I give it a straight 8 when that's the case. So let's give this an 8.00 with the BRT 02 when it comes to drinkability. So make sure you stick around for the Bourbon Bomb of the Week, because we're going to talk exactly about this BRT project as well as the other wood finishing series projects that they've done in the past. But we're going to get into taste on this next. And the best part is the bottle tells you what you're supposed to be tasting. Deep caramelized barrel notes accented with some toastiness and warm finish for the 01. And 02 calls out for a dark expression filled with notes of fruit, nut, and chocolate. Now, you've got to assume that the Staves project is exactly what's giving each one of these a different taste profile. So let's get back into 01 and see if we can pick out any of those notes. So this right here is exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to a bourbon. You get sweet, you get spicy, you get caramel, you get vanillas, you get oaks. The main thing that I'm picking out of this with the fruits that they're talking about is like an apricot or a peach. I've never had an apricot, so we're going to call it a peach. People tell me they're very similar, but this just gives you everything that you want when it comes to a glass of bourbon. It's so well blended. It's so well balanced. The spiciness is almost like when you make wings and you make like a honey hot sauce for the wings, you put your Frank's Red Hot in there, you put some butter, you put some of that honey, you even get the creaminess from the butter on this. That's exactly what I'm getting on this. The spices are just fantastic. Perfect fall weather drink. Sit by a fire and absolutely enjoy this. Crushable as well. Like I said, the drinkability not the worst, but at the same time, that flavor profile just makes it so good, so easy to drink. You get marshmallows, you get toastiness, all wrapped up in a perfect delivery when it comes to this glass over here. This is going to get a real good score. Let's take one more sip and find out. This is one of the better bourbons that I've had for 2022. This is absolutely delicious. I've got to give it a great score. It reminds me a lot of Larceny Barrel Proof, minus that proof, right? It's like a lower toned Larceny Barrel Proof, but still has that flavor profile behind it. Both wheaters, both delicious. I got to give this like a 9 point, do I go 5? 9.52 when it comes to taste on this. That'll take us over to the O2. We're going to see if we can get any of that nuttiness or any of that chocolate that they're talking about. Let's take a sip and find out. So this one kind of throws me for a loop just a little bit. I thought these two were going to be completely different. They're a lot similar than I thought they were going to be. They're not the same by any means. You can tell side by side that they are different bourbons. I think the French oak is having a lot more influence on this than the American oak on this. I'm getting more of that oak flavor. And the big thing I'm getting, you know when you cook chicken and you brush on barbecue sauce and you're outside on the grill or on the Blackstone and you flip it over and then that barbecue sauce kind of burns and it actually becomes like flaky and crispy and airy and light and everything like that. And you eat that, right? I literally cut that piece of chicken off and I eat just that. And it's super sweet, a little bit of saltiness to it, but it's so sweet and molassesy and burnt and toasted and all of that. That's what I'm getting on this compared to like the sweetness from the fruit that I'm getting on the BRT 01. That being said, I'm also getting a lot more dark flavors with this. You're definitely getting that chocolate. You're getting more of the oak influence. I think the French oak is having more of an influence on this than the American oak is on this. You're still getting a pretty good oak presence on this, but at the end of the day, this one over here tastes more like a campfire, salty, sweet. You're getting a lot of that smoke, that oak. That actual French oak Staves project is doing more to influence this bottle, for me particularly, than the American oak is on this one. Let's take one more sip. We'll see if we can give this a score. This is why I didn't do a blind, by the way. So here's the deal, and here's why I don't normally do two bourbons at the same time, because this one over here, it's fantastic. It's bright, it's welcoming, it's delicious. This one over here is also delicious. It's just not as good as this one for my particular flavor profile. It's more of those dark notes, more of that burnt caramel toastiness that I don't truly love in a bourbon, compared to this, which is more that sweet, spicy, oaky flavor that you're going to get. So this one, for me, definitely better than this one when it comes to the taste profile, but we do have to give it a score. Let's give it like an 8.76 when it comes to taste on this. Again, not terrible by any means. It's just not living up to the standards of this BRT 01 after the first couple of sips. And as always, last but certainly not least, we're going to pour up a little bit more here and we're going to get a price on this. This bottle comes in at $60, $59.99 here in Pennsylvania. I was lucky enough to be able to get my hands on both of them. They did drop in stores and not online. Now, $60. Here's the thing about these projects, right? So they're taking regular old Maker's Mark. We can even say like Maker's Mark 46 or Cash Strength or something like that, which is normally like $36, $37 here in Pennsylvania. And they're marking these up to $60. Now, what am I getting? Obviously, they have to pay for the French oak staves. They have to pay for the extra time. And I'm not exactly sure how much time they spend in these French oak or American oak, my apologies, staves, but they do spend some time in there, so we have to pay for that as well. We're going to talk about what the BRT means and what Maker's Mark does to make these bottles so expensive in the first place when it comes to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week. But $60 for each one of these. I'm obviously going to give a better score to the 01 than the 02 because I like the taste and drinkability a little bit better with the 01. So with the 01, let's give this like a, this is tough. I'm going to give it a straight 9 when it comes to the 01. I don't think it's a terrible price tag. I think a lot of things coming out with a lot of special releases are a lot more expensive than this. And when it comes to the 02, let's give it like an 8.47 just because I don't like the flavor profile or the drinkability quite as much. But listen, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about this BRT project and the Wood Series project in general. Cheers, y'all. So this actually isn't the beginning of the wood finishing series when it comes to Maker's Mark. Last year they had FAE 01 and FAE 02, which they released in spring and fall respectfully. The year before that, in 2020, they had SE4-PR5. I don't know what any of that stands for because I didn't get my hands on it. I didn't even know about it at the time. I was just kind of getting started into bourbon at the time. And then in 2019, they had RC6. But the interesting thing that Maker's Mark is doing is they're actually planting trees now to turn into barrels to make into something else so that they could finish these projects in the staves that those barrels are going to become 20, 30, or 40 years from now. And I will say Makers continues to release these at a high quantity and an affordable price. The future of bourbon seems to be moving towards these one-off special releases where distilleries know that they can get a high demand, high price for it. So it's nice to see something like Maker's Mark coming out here with a project like this that you can afford and get your hands on. Cheers. But here we go. We've got to get into our final scores now. BRT01 coming in at an 8.93. Not a bad spot for this at all. I thought this personally was going to hit the 9s. Drinkability held this back just a little bit, but not quite as much as the BRT02, which came in at an 8.41. But listen, before we end the video, let's try out our mashup here. And make sure you click that like and that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. BRT01.5. Let's try it out. Listen, if you have the opportunity and you have both of these, try this 50-50 because this is pretty damn good. I don't know if it beats 01, but it definitely beats 02. But listen, make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. If you want to help support the channel out financially, check us out on Patreon. That link in the description below. We have lots of good perks just for Patreons. Come chat with us 24/7 on Discord. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Go Phils.